All right, let's dive into a really fascinating vision from the prophet Zechariah. We're talking about a full-blown celestial courtroom drama, and it's packed with some profound ideas about sin, forgiveness, and, well, hope for the future.
So let me just start with this question. What actually happens when an entire nation's soul gets put on trial? Because that's really the heart of the scene in Zechariah chapter 3. We're about to witness this incredibly high-stakes trial where the defendant represents a whole people, the prosecutor is, the ultimate adversary, and the judge holds the power of absolute total acquittal.
Okay, so to really get what's going on here, we've got to rewind the clock a bit to about 520 BC. The Jewish people have just come back from a grueling 70-year exile in Babylon. They're trying to rebuild everything, their lives, their city, and most importantly, their temple. And this vision, it shows up at just the right time as a direct encouragement for this huge, monumental task ahead of them.
And boom, the vision kicks off and we are dropped right into the middle of a divine courtroom. The main players are all there from the get-go. You've got Joshua, the high priest, and he's the one on trial. Presiding over everything is the angel of the Lord. And then, standing at Joshua's right hand, which, by the way, was the traditional spot for an accuser in a Jewish court, is Satan, ready to make his case.
Now, understanding the symbolism here is everything. Joshua isn't just some guy. He's the living embodiment of the whole nation of Israel, trying to spiritually recover from its past. The angel of the Lord, he's the ultimate authority in the room. And Satan, whose name literally means the adversary, well, he's there to do exactly what his name implies, accuse and try to stop God's plan for restoration dead in its tracks.
So you can feel the tension, right? The stage is set for this huge showdown. Satan is ready to rattle off a whole list of reasons why Joshua, and by extension, the entire nation, is unworthy of being restored. But before he can even get a word out, the defense steps in. And man, is it a powerful one.
The rebuke is immediate and just absolute. This isn't a debate, it's a declaration. The Lord invokes his own name, which basically shuts down any argument. And notice, he doesn't defend Joshua based on his own merit. Nope, the defense rests on two things: God's own sovereign choice of Jerusalem and this incredible metaphor.
And that line, a brand plucked out of the fire, that's the core of the whole argument. God is basically saying, look, this nation has already been through the furnace of judgment in Babylon. I'm the one who saved them from being completely destroyed, and there's no way I'm going to let you condemn what I have chosen to rescue. The acquittal is based purely 100% on grace.
Okay, so now the focus of the vision shifts, and it gets really visual. It zooms right in on Joshua's appearance, which is the stark visual representation of the spiritual state of the whole nation.
And we're not just talking about some muddy clothes here. The text says, filthy garments. In the scriptures, that's a really potent symbol for deep, ingrained sin and impurity. It reminds you of what the prophet Isaiah wrote, that all our righteousnesses are as filthy rags. So here's Joshua, standing before a perfectly holy God, and his clothes are basically testifying against him. So how do people look at this symbol? Well, you've got a couple of complementary takes. From a Jewish perspective, it's very specific, pointing to Israel's national sins and unfaithfulness. From a Christian perspective, it's seen as representing the universal state of humanity without God's grace. But here's the thing. Both views totally agree on the main point. The garments represent an unworthiness that only God himself can fix. And then comes the verdict. But it's not what you'd expect. It's not punishment at all. It's a pardon. The angel of the Lord gives a command to the others in the court, take away the filthy garments from him. Then he turns to Joshua and spells it out, making the symbolism crystal clear. Behold, I have caused your iniquity to pass from you. The sin is removed, and then comes a promise of new, clean clothes.
And here's where things get really wild. Zechariah, the prophet who's just been watching this whole thing unfold, he actually speaks up. He jumps into the vision and says, hey, let's get a clean turban on his head too. It's this amazing moment of human participation in this divine act of restoration.
Now this mitre, it's not just a fancy hat. It was the absolute crown of the high priest's uniform. It had a golden plate on it, and engraved on that plate were the words, Holiness to the Lord. So putting that back on Joshua's head means he's not just forgiven, he is fully reconsecrated, made completely fit for holy service again. The transformation is officially complete.
All right, so Joshua is now cleansed, he's restored, the legal part is done, but the vision isn't over. The focus actually shifts from what we'd call justification, being made right with God, to sanctification, which is all about the ongoing path of living a life of obedience. So the angel of the Lord lays down what's called a charge. And you can think of it like this. The forgiveness part was a free gift, pure grace.
But what comes next? Well, that's conditional. Future authority and this deeper connection with God are directly tied to Joshua's faithfulness moving forward.
It's basically laid out in this really clear if-then structure. The condition is simple: be obedient. The consequence? You get your authority back over the temple. But the promise? The promise is just incredible. Access to the heavenly court itself, the right to walk among these that stand by.
So right when you think this vision can't get any more profound, it just explodes in scope. It moves way beyond the immediate situation with Joshua and rebuilding the temple, and it launches into a prophecy that has huge implications for the future.
The Lord tells Joshua, hey, you and your fellow priests, you guys are signs, or more literally, men of wonder. You're living symbols, and you're pointing to something, or rather someone, much greater who is coming. And that someone is given a very specific title, my servant the branch. And this title, the branch, wow. Anyone listening back then who knew their scriptures would have immediately sat up straight. The prophets Isaiah and Jeremiah both used that exact term to describe a future messianic king from the line of David who would rule in perfect righteousness. So this vision is explicitly connecting the restored priesthood of Joshua's time to the ultimate high priest yet to come. But wait, there's more. Another incredible symbol gets dropped into the vision, a single, unique stone placed right in front of Joshua. And this isn't any ordinary stone. It has 7 eyes, and it's connected to this mind-blowing promise. The sin of the entire land will be removed in a single day. What on earth could that mean? Okay, so let's unpack this because there is a lot going on with this stone. The stone itself is another symbol for the Messiah, the cornerstone, the very foundation of God's new temple. The 7 eyes represent God's perfect, all-seeing wisdom and the fullness of His Spirit, an image that gets picked up again in the book of Revelation. And that promise to remove all sin in one day, that points to a single, final, all-encompassing act of atonement. And how does this incredible vision end? It wraps up with this just beautiful, peaceful picture of what all this atonement leads to. It's an image of ultimate peace, prosperity, and a time when community and fellowship are totally restored. You know that phrase, under the vine and under the fig tree? That's like the ultimate ancient shorthand for shalom. And shalom doesn't just mean no more war. It means total well-being, security, harmony, everything being right. That's the ultimate goal of the entire vision, a restored people living in a restored relationship with their God and with each other. So that brings us back full circle to a final question. From a heavenly trial to a promise of messianic peace, Zechariah's vision lays out this timeless pattern. Accusation is met by grace, filth is exchanged for finery, and a present restoration points to an even greater ultimate redemption. It's a powerful reminder that forgiveness isn't the end of the story, it's just the beginning of a whole new